Okay. My name is Emma Donnelly with the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program, and I'm speaking virtually with Tim Larson on November 5th, 2020. Thank you for talking with me today.
Hi there.
Could you please begin by introducing yourself, your coffee shop, and your role there?
Yes, I'm Tim Larson. I own Opus Coffee, and I own Opus Coffee. So, sure. We started it in 2002, so I've owned it for about 18 years.
It's about as old as me, a little less. So I'm starting out asking everyone this sort of question about your personal experience with coffee, and then we'll delve more into the business. So, what's your earliest memory of coffee or drinking it yourself?
My parents always just drank coffee in the mornings. I never really thought of it. I didn't really think about it. It's not like something that we did or at all. But it wasn't until I got my first job at a coffee shop when I was 17 that I first, I didn't even like coffee for the first 6 months I worked at the coffee shop. So it wasn't until I was probably like 18 when I first tried coffee and just started drinking it. I didn't even drink it every day until I was like in my, mid-20s probably.
So, ever since you got that job, have you always been involved in the coffee business in some way, or did you sort of jump back into it later on?
No, so my part-time job in high school was at the coffee shop in South Miami Hospital, and I worked there part-time. Even stayed there after I graduated, and then probably after a year, my brother also got a job there, and so we both worked at the same coffee shop, and we did shifts together all the time. And then after after a year or two, the owner of the coffee shop actually got another job. And then we all just ran it. And it was after a while, we just thought that we could do this ourselves. And so we started planning to open up our own coffee shop. We knew that opening in a hospital would be much less capital intensive. It'd be easier. There were also many other things that were very fortunate in that sense. The marketing budget, you didn't need a large marketing budget. It's a captive audience, basically. Your hours were better. It's basically open early in the morning and close in the evening. You didn't have to be open late nights. But anyway, we ended up, we researched all the hospitals in Florida. We made proposals books and then we tried to make appointments at these hospitals to pitch our idea of opening a coffee shop in their hospital. No one was interested, and it became abundantly clear that we would just have to take a road trip and just meet people in person. We didn't even make appointments then. So we got in our car. I think I was like 20, 21, and we stopped in Tampa first. Drove up to the Panhandle. We dropped off proposal books in Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Gainesville, down to Orlando, and then we did some in Broward County too. And it just so happens that Shands Hospital was looking for someone to open a coffee shop. And the moment we dropped off the proposal book. So shortly thereafter, 6 months after, we opened our first shop there.
Is there still a shop there?
What's that?
Is there still a shop at Shands?
So we opened our first one at the AGH Hospital, which is currently like the Innovation District, and they tore that hospital down in 2009. So we opened that first one January of 2003. Then we opened our second one in August of 2003, and that was in Main Shands, and that one's still going today. So, and then as they open more buildings, they've invited us to open more coffee shops. So now we have 6 inside of UF Health.
Could you describe your daily or weekly involvement and role at Opus?
Early on, it was more, early on when we were smaller, it was more, I worked a shift behind the bar every single day, either at Shands or as we open new locations, I would usually work at those locations more. And then in the afternoons, I would go home and do the book work. I still do all the book work, but now, like, now we have 8 coffee shops. We have a roasting business. Our online sales are pretty abundant. And so now it's just so much book work. It's a lot less like behind the coffee bars and more of like organizing and planning and making, listening to comments, complaints. We just get so many emails, inquiries every day. It's a lot of like, and actually my goal this year was to just try to automate a lot. That way I'm like more in the coffee business again. Sometimes I feel like I'm just in like the clerical business. So yeah.
So has Opus expanded then outside of Gainesville?
In 2009, we opened a coffee shop in a hospital in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, but we were trying to replicate what we had here, where we'd open in like 3 or 4 locations in one city, but it just never turned out. And so all of our locations are in Gainesville, but we ship coffee around the country. So, yeah.
So, could you describe what the Opus coffee shops were like before the coronavirus pandemic? Like, what was the environment like? How did people buy their coffee? What activities did they participate in the shop?
Well, the difference, so we have the 6 inside of UF Health, besides wearing masks, because we've been having to wear masks since April. So that already creates a barrier. And we have a plexiglass between the customer and ourselves. That already creates like right now people appreciate it because it's like like the safety barrier between customer and employee. But the customers don't touch anything anymore in the hospital. So whereas they used to pour their own coffee, we do that for them now. We add the ingredients. And so each drink is a little more time intensive on our end, but that's just for the hospitals. For the innovation store, which is like the sit down coffee shop that we have, we're doing around 60% of the business that we were doing. Like, so many students would just come and hang out all day. We do serve alcohol in the evenings, and it's a balance between, but we did take away half the seats just to spread everything out. But it's a balance between like coming up with new ideas and having people together. So like we had a whole mimosa menu we were going to introduce there, but that would just encourage people just hanging out together. So we decided to put that off. However, the Airstream, we opened in January of 2020 of this year. And so whereas every location had declined in sales, the Airstream actually tripled in sales. And it's because of the outdoor environment. People just love being outside. And so the food park is all outside. There's no indoor seating. You just order at a window and you take it to leave. And that has been extremely successful. So we're looking to build off of that and the whole like outdoors thing. So. Yeah.
I've personally been there, but could you describe sort of what the Airstream looks like for people who might not have seen it?
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, it's a so we started the food park. We had this whole concept with the food park, by the way. We probably started the idea like 5 years ago, and we're trying to like renovate and build it up. So the whole food park is like this outdoor gathering place. We try to get just local restaurants to join us. And then, so for the Opus Coffee Airstream, we found a 1976 Airstream, completely gutted and renovated into renovated into a coffee shop. So I don't know if you're familiar with Airstreams or not, but it's like the silver RV that's like the iconic American RV, I guess. So yeah.
Great. So what has that been like, kind of getting that up and running in the midst of the pandemic? I guess, has it been pretty smooth sailing since it's been outdoors?
Yeah, so we opened that in January. In January of this year. And that was probably the least, like the coffee shop that was the least affected by the pandemic. Like we didn't have to change operations much besides like wearing masks. We didn't have to really change anything. Things just got busier there. So yeah. Was that your question?
Yeah, definitely. You got it.
Okay.
So how has the pandemic affected the business side of things? Like, are you seeing customers buy different things or ordering more online, or like, for instance, coffee to take home?
Yeah, we, so at the 6 in the hospitals, it's just the way it always was. So I mean, it's always to go. It's mostly doctors, patients, visitors, and and that's just the way it is. Sales are just a little bit lower there still, but it's really innovation, the innovation store. There's just not hanging out, and I feel like a lot of the reasons why people go to a coffee shop is to hang out. I personally just am anti-drive-through, so we don't really have that. We wouldn't really have that going anyway. I feel like drive-throughs would be like really like would be like ideal right now. So I sort of missed the boat on that. But business-wise in the pandemic, so 2019 was a really, really great year. We had been building up for a while, and we just made some business decisions in 2019 that just really panned out. And so we knew that things don't last forever. So towards the end of 2019, we had already started saving a lot. We were, I don't know, you call it like hunkering down because things have been so good for so long. And a lot of people were saying that an economic recession was coming. And just from the 2008 one, we just knew that there were going to be opportunity if we had saved beforehand. And we're ready for it. And so, of course, we didn't know it was going to be a pandemic, obviously, but we were ready for something to happen business-wise. We were ready for a downturn. So it still stinks, but it is what it is. Yeah.
How have you seen customers react to new safety measures?
I believe it's definitely appreciated. So one of our rules before COVID, so last year, is you couldn't leave any type of cleaning material on the counters. So like a bottle of sanitizer or a bottle of like detergent spray, like cleansing spray, you always had to keep it in the cabinets. But now I don't even care because customers appreciate even the look of being cleaner and more sanitary. For us, we did add more like sanitation bottles, so people could just clean. It's more convenient to clean things down. But we've always been clean. Besides adding the plexiglass in front, which with everyone wearing masks, I'm not even sure how much that does. But actually, some people do still not wear masks when they come in order. So I guess the plexiglass still does help in that scenario. But just seeing how much or what we're doing, or at least seeing that we're abiding by the rules, it's definitely appreciated and noticed. So even like little things where we mess up, customers let us know that it's not okay. So a lot more than before. And actually, we've gotten more complaints since March of this year than we have the first 17 and a half years in business. I think just people are just really anxious and really noticing every little thing that's everywhere they go out. So, yeah, I don't know.
So Opus roasts coffee too, right?
That is correct. Yeah, we've been roasting for over 10 years now. Yeah.
So what is that like, and like how is that beneficial for your coffee shops to like have their own roast? And also like how do you see like the Gainesville community appreciating that like local element?
Yeah, so we really wanted to be so we roast about 1,000 pounds of coffee a week at this point. And that kind of that kind of volume, by roasting ourselves, we were obviously able to it allows us to save money, but it also, when you're doing 1,000 pounds a week, you really it allows you to control the kind of coffee that you want to sell. So like you don't have to wait. We're just more in control of our business at this point. And we always have a supply. Like we have a supply secured. I think we have about 40 to 50,000 pounds on contract. That is saved for us, like future crops that are already saved for us. So we know that we have the security that we will have inventory to sell at a certain price. When it comes locally, like we do have really pushed, actually since the pandemic started, we've like really, because for the most part, we were just roasting for ourselves and then there was an online shop. But when the pandemic happened, sales went down in our coffee shop 60%, basically within 10 days. And so we really were looking for different revenue streams, different types of things that we could do. And we just pushed online sales. And now that sales are coming back at our coffee shops, those online sales are still remaining on our website, which is great. It's just good having a more, multi-dimensional business model. So, yeah.
Well, I have sort of one more follow-up question, but if you don't have an answer to this is fine.
Oh,
I just
okay.
always like to ask, is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't discussed so far today?
Well, one thing that was not mentioned was the help from the government help. I think most small businesses got that PPP loan, and we got that PPP loan, and that really helped us out in those like 8 weeks where there was just great uncertainty. The week, like sales were declining so quickly that we couldn't cut payroll fast enough. We had 75 employees March 10th. And then by March 30th, we were down to like 28 employees. We just, sales go down a little bit, and then you cut shifts back from 4 employees to 3.5. And then sales were even slower the next day. So you cut a little bit more back. And then there was sales were slower the following day. And so you'd cut a little bit more back. Then you just cancel shifts. And you just have no idea, uncertainty, like where the bottom would go out. And then on top of that, we're a coffee business that was, we have the infrastructure to deliver and support 8 coffee shops where, there's a lot of fixed costs that are on top of that. We had 2 delivery vans, the roaster, there's 9 rents we pay. And so the PPP loan really bought us time to figure out how to survive in the coming months. But yeah, so.
I just thought of one more question.
Sure, whatever.
What's it like running these coffee businesses, and I guess specifically the Airstream and the one at Innovation Square, that are subject to the ebbs and flows of a college town sort of seasonally?
Yeah. So we well, without giving away like some secrets that partly make us more successful, we have our business model is lined up where we are ready for those declines in business, and our business is and fixed costs decline when sales are slower. It's just one of the things that you figure out later on in business. It's not something I would have thought of the first several years. It was probably one of the things that we looked into. But just the way our business is set up with our overhead, our overhead decreases when the students are out of town. So, and that helps out. It actually helped out a lot with the pandemic. As all the students were leaving town, that threshold of the population threshold at UF declined, and just our fixed costs were able to decline as well. So yeah, so that's that.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. This has been a fascinating interview.
Oh, no problem. Sorry I flaked out twice. So
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good. I appreciate it.
Great.
I'll be sending you the form over email, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is great.
Okay.
And I'll let you know when the interview is posted and eventually the podcast. So.
Sounds good. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Great to talk to you.
See you later. You too.
Bye-bye.